of what Revitablu does is very, very simple once we understand really what stem cells are doing in the body. You'll have to live with my clicker tonight because it's not very, there you go. Okay, so when we talk about stem cells, so Revitablu is really the outcome of about 18 years of research that I've done in the field of stem cell research. And we need to understand that when we talk about stem cells, the great interest about stem cells in the world, when you go on the web or you read in newspapers, magazines, everywhere we talk about various treatments, various use of stem cells, adult stem cells. And the reason why there's so much interest in stem cells is essentially because there is this recognition in the scientific community that stem cells have enormous regenerative potential. Otherwise, we would not be interested in stem cells that way. The thing that we never talk about is that stem cells that are used for stem cell treatments, isolated from your blood, from your bone marrow, from your fat tissue, from various places, well, they are in your body to begin with. So if they have such enormous regenerative potential, by taking them out of your body and putting them back into your body, the big question to me that is, I'm surprised that we're still not talking more about this, is that if they have such potential, then what are they doing in your body to begin with? And understanding what is the natural role of stem cells in the body literally changes the way that we understand health and wellness. And I believe it's called to change the way that we practice medicine. So it may seem like a big statement, but you'll see at the end of the evening what I mean by all of this. So far, so good?
Yeah.
So the whole purpose of today is really to understand what is the natural role of stem cells in the body, what they do, and when we understand this, then it's obvious what Revitablu does. So the starting point is to understand what is a stem cell. We have a non-cooperating clicker. Maybe I'll just have to use the computer directly. Okay, the starting point is to understand what is a stem cell. The best way to understand what is a stem cell is to describe what is not a stem cell. All the cells of the body are called somatic cells. They're specialized cells, so not stem cells. Specialized cells, they do one thing, one only thing. They will never multiply, they will never transform into anything else. So you think of a cell of your retina, for example, it's excited by light, activated by light. That's the only thing that it will do. If one day you become deaf and somebody comes and screams in your eye, you're not going to hear it. It's only going to respond to light. It's not going to respond to other types of frequency. Cells of the pancreas will make insulin. They will never transform into anything else. These are all the cells of your body. They're specialized. They do not transform. They do not proliferate. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got stem cells. Stem cells are actually nothing. They don't have a function in the body. Their function is in their ability to transform and to become another type of cell. Otherwise, in your bone marrow, a stem cell does absolutely nothing. It's waiting for its transformation. Historically or traditionally, they have been recognized to be precursors to blood cells. So if you went to med school or you did any kind of class in biology, stem cells are precursors to blood cells, white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets, and that's their limitation. So the big explosion in the field of stem cell research is the discovery in the early 2000s that stem cells had the ability of becoming other types of cells than just blood cells. These are observations that were done, for example, in studies. One that comes to mind, which was to me the article that started me in all this path. A friend of mine sent me an article, and the title of the article was "Turning Blood into Brain." The first studies studying or investigating treatment for leukemia, which was essentially irradiation of a person, which kills all the stem cells, and then we do a bone marrow transplant. So in that study, they irradiated female mice, and they injected stem cells coming from male mice. So they have the Y chromosome, so you can follow the Y chromosome. So by this procedure, you can follow the reconstitution of the bone marrow in the blood. So they realized after a few weeks it works. We can cure or or treat leukemia with this procedure, but then they found a cell in the brain with the Y chromosome. So suddenly that meant it came from the bone marrow. So the same observations were made in the liver, were made in different tissues. And let me share one of these studies, because I think a question that may or may not be in your mind yet is that as I move forward, you'll realize I'm literally talking here about a new system in the body, a phenomenon that is so important that you are alive because of this phenomenon. Why is it that we have never seen it before? I mean, we can put cameras in the brain, we can go to Mars, we can inject microscopic cameras in your bloodstream to feel your blood, and something as obvious as this has never been seen before. And the reason is the following. Here's a study that it will show you why. Here's a study in which scientists took a double beaker. So you have here a small beaker inside a bigger beaker, and the bottom of this top beaker here, the membrane, is a semi-permeable membrane. So it has holes small enough to allow the passage of big enough to allow the passage of molecule, but small enough to prevent the passage of cells. So they put at the top stem cells, and at the bottom they put a piece of damaged liver. And then they looked at these cells, and within about 8 hours, the stem cells start to transform into liver cells. But the reason why I'm showing this study is that if you take any one of these liver cells and you look at them under the microscope, you can identify what they are, that it's a liver cell according to its size, its shape. There's a lot of physical and visible characteristics in pathology that will allow you to identify what kind of cell it is. But it's impossible to say yesterday was a stem cell. The transformation is completely invisible until we find a way to mark the cell and observe the transformation. A little bit like, how did we discover, I remember watching a documentary some years ago, so it was believed before that the great white shark in Florida, comes cyclical. It's cyclical. It comes toward the shore, and then after that you don't see them for a number of weeks. That they would go in the deep ocean and come back. So one day they put a GPS on one of them, and they discovered that no, it goes up the coast, up to Newfoundland, and then comes back down. They never thought that it would go into these cold waters. How can you discover this? By marking the shark. Same kind of phenomenon here. If you mark the cell and you see that stem cell transforming into a liver cell that is now marked, you can tell that that was your stem cell before. So we were able to do this after the discovery and development of a tool called green fluorescent protein. It's a protein isolated from a jellyfish. It received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2008. Given that it's a protein, it's easy to derive the DNA that codes for this protein. So now you take that DNA, you inject it into a stem cell, so that stem cell will make that protein, so it will become green. If you now put the stem cells with liver cells, it will become a liver cell. All you have to do is put a black light and it starts to glow. Now you can tell that liver cell was a stem cell yesterday. So it basically reveals a phenomenon that is actually not only a small phenomenon, but you'll see as we go into this presentation, it's actually a very, very significant process taking place in the body. So what many group of scientists have done is that you irradiate mice, which kills all stem cells, you inject fluorescent stem cells, then you trigger an injury to a tissue, and you observe the process of tissue repair. Let me just organize this a little bit better so that it's easier to make the slides.